It's also the place for more hotels than you can count, including the world-famous Imperial Hotel, which today plays host to a very special gathering. People have literally travelled all around the world to be here today to take part in an event honouring the memory of a man who was not only one of Britain's most successful entertainers, but also one of show business's first millionaires, and that's before the Second World War.
He wasn't the cleverest comedian in the world, nor was he the funniest, but he had an inner warmth. You see photographs with his buck teeth and his silly grin, and what he's really saying is, well, you can laugh at the face, but that's the face of the richest man in Britain, you know.
We sent James Ray to investigate.
It's a cold spring morning, and we're here outside one of Blackpool's most famous hotels. We're here for a very special anniversary. Let's find out what it is. I can hear music. I think it's coming from this way.
You must know who we're talking about now, but just in case.
Ever heard of George Formby? In his day, he was one of Britain's biggest superstars, if not the biggest superstar. And that's what this is all about.
George Formby made his last film over 60 years ago, and yet his popularity is as great as ever, and the venue is packed.
We're here today to celebrate George's life. It's actually 50 years since George Formby died.
There was something about him. He was he was the highest paid entertainer for a short time. He really was. But he did a lot of very, very good service during the war, and that's why the King and Queen, he was a great favourite of theirs.
George suffered a little from his image. Everybody thought he was gormless, that he played a banjo and sang mucky songs and was just famous in the north. No. There was more to George than that. And during the 30s and 40s and into the 50s, that's why the great mass of British people loved him. He endeared himself to that kind of audience.
George Formby was born George Booth back in 1904, the son of George Formby Sr, an established music hall artist who took his stage name from the Lancashire town of Formby. George Jr followed his father into the business and won over audiences with his ukulele playing and a gentle Lancashire humour. He also married dancer Beryl Ingham in 1924, and their marriage would be a long and difficult one. The thing that really seems to draw all these visitors together is perhaps George's music rather than his comedy. Today there are more ukuleles and banjos than you can shake a stick at, played by enthusiasts of all ages.
I played it soft and sad, she didn't care a bit, and then I got so mad I swore I'd make a hit. So I told my baby with the ukulele, I bashed her with it over the head.
I started playing George Formby, and I'm just so attached to George Formby music, and I think it's really good.
6 hours of practice a day for about 2 years does help.
I saw my very first film when I was 6 years old, and it helped on him ever since, and I knew all the songs before I could even play, so don't knock something till you've tried it. I'd say the definite thing, really.
Well, everybody here seems to be pretty good at it, so we thought James should have a go too. We sent him to an expert.
Come on, James, I think you should have a go.
Let's have a go.
There we go, righty-ho. Right, here we go. Okay. Right, that's the one there. Right, now strum out all 4 strings. No, not too hard, just
okay.
Now this is where we change. Now it gets difficult here, and you go to that chord. There! That is it. Right, try that. Oh me, oh my, now back to the first chord. Oh, the little lady comes by. James, that was brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic, man. I like that. You were perfect.
Not on your Nelly. George Formby, eat your heart out.
See, that's the magic of the man, and there'll be more from this amazing gathering later in the programme. Blackpool's famous Imperial Hotel is playing host to a very special gathering, which is honouring the life and times of the town's most famous resident. George Formby was a Lancashire comic who made over 20 films and recorded more than 200 different songs. 50 years after his death, his appeal remains timeless, and his music has inspired countless visitors to take to the stage. Blackpool was undoubtedly where George preferred to be.
Blackpool, as another famous entertainer, Stanley Holloway, used to say, it's noted for fresh air and fun. And George Formby, he was a Lancashire lad. He was a Lancashire lad. And Blackpool is really George's spiritual home. So Blackpool and George go together like, you know, fish and chips or egg and bacon.
The musical performances are the highlight of the day's events, and absolutely anyone is welcome to take part. Young John's a regular here.
Even people I know now, I mean young people now that I've shown them to, or friends of mine, and they're all interested in it. It's just got that magic, you know, with it. But, when I went to school, it was pretty hard with it, because when you're playing a ukulele, because it's not a guitar or a set of drums or anything like that, but I want it to be different compared to everyone else, and I think that's really something nice and special. I don't think people actually see that when you look at it, but it's something that I haven't regretted doing, definitely not, through all my young life, you know, and I hope to carry it on for many, many years to come, you know, so it's definitely something to try.
It means everything. It's like I started playing George Formby, and I'm just so attached to George Formby music, and I think it's really good.
So what's your favourite George Formby song?
I've got loads, but I think it's Lancashire Toreador.
Lancashire Toreador?
Yeah.
Would you give us a few bars?
Yeah.
Lancashire Toreador was just one of a string of hit songs that also include classics like Leaning on a Lamppost. George was also a hugely successful movie star.
He made 22 films, and George Formby Jr, the George we know, appeared in a film called By the Shortest of Heads in 1915. No copy of that survives. But the other 21 films, we've got copies of them all. George also would just entered the television age in the 50s, right up to he died in 1961. But had he lived, you know, had he got to his 70, he would have entered fully into the television age. But only 4 of George's 13 major television shows survive.
And who's this waiting in the wings?
I just got remarked saying you look like George Formby. So it started from there, and one night in our local pub, the landlord there lent me a little ukulele and a book, and he says, please, you've got to do a song, just for the pub. So that I did, and it went down an absolute storm. So I thought, I like this. It's fabulous. I'm glad. I wish I'd have done it years ago. Everybody loves it. It always spreads a few smiles.
George and Beryl remained unhappily married, but Beryl remained determined that George kept in the public eye.
In 1951, he was offered the leading role in a West End musical called Zip Goes a Million. Wonderful show, wonderful story, wonderful songs, at the Palace Theatre, Shaftesbury Avenue. So Emil Littler signed him up at £750 a week because he was northern. Beryl said no. £1,000 a week plus a percentage of the box office, and she got it. So everybody came, sat on their hands, expecting him to flop. But he wasn't. It was a tremendous success. You couldn't get a ticket. And 6 months into the run, George was driving his Rolls through London for an Easter break on his yacht, the Lady Beryl, at Norfolk, and bang, he had a heart attack and had to withdraw from the show. And the remaining 9 years of his life, he was a sick man, but he worked and worked and worked. It was 18 months after that before he appeared on the stage again.
George's death in 1961 sadly came at a point when his life may have been about to take a new turn.
When he died, it was very sad because he was only 56, and his last, 10, 12 years with Beryl had been, George actually told a newspaper reporter that they hadn't lived together as man and wife. It became a cold, calculating business relationship rather than a loving relationship. But Beryl died from leukemia on Christmas Day, 1960. And there was George, 56, a very sick man, really.
After Beryl's death, George became involved with a local woman, Pat Howson.
And then, of course, sod's law, George had a heart attack and was taken to hospital in Preston and seemed to be getting better. And then Pat was with him, and they'd arranged to get married on St. Valentine's Day, and George had another heart attack, and unfortunately he died.
It's a shame George didn't get the second chance at his happiness he undoubtedly deserved, but he left behind a legacy of music, comedy and entertainment that is celebrated to this day. For most of his life he was Blackpool, and Blackpool was him. And what better way to remember him than the group ukulele playing sessions that always ends the proceedings.
Now this is the bit that everyone's been waiting for. This is called the thrash, and everybody joins in.